Ever since I was little, I've always enjoyed skylines, whether it was Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, or my own hometown of Atlanta. It has been one of my favorite things about life ever since I can remember. Looking into the horizon and seeing buildings jut up into the sky is the most picturesque thing that I can imagine. And it's something that I will never ever get tired of. This is where my love for Kennesaw Mountain first was born. Kennesaw Mountain is a mountain that's almost directly next to my neighborhood. And every time I'm home, whether it's the summertime, whether it's fall, winter, Thanksgiving break, whenever I get a chance, I always will either drive up there, hike it with my friends or my family, or just walk up by myself and enjoy the quiet and the peace and just the serenity of the beautiful location. It takes probably, I believe it's about 3 miles to get to the top. Um, and one time over this past summer, I found myself wondering, where what is the history of this place? What happened? What happened here that made this a battleground or a museum or national monument? So I decided that I wanted to do my speech on that. So early Kennesaw Mountain, before the Civil War, way before any of that, and really throughout the 18th century, it was the home of Native Americans, so the Cherokee Indian tribe. Um, Indian tribe is obviously, as you guys know, is the name that was given to it by the settlers, the European settlers, but they're called Native Americans, and it was the Cherokee people or the indigenous people. And they were living here for hundreds and hundreds of years, pretty much almost probably thousands of years, before European settlers came and inevitably found gold and were and forced them to relocate out over to Oklahoma. Um, the Cherokee Indian tribe was actually pretty well spread out. So it wasn't just Georgia; it was North Georgia, like where I live, Atlanta and North, and then over into Tennessee, South Carolina, North Carolina, up, even into some parts of Kentucky. So they were there for a really, really long time. Um, European settlers encroached on the territories, and conflicts did arise later on. And obviously the very famous, historical event, the Trail of Tears, came out of this. Obviously, when they found that there was value to the land, the people that had settled there, um, had large mass groups of Native Americans, women, children, male, the ones that had not been killed, um, had to pack up their things or whatever they had and go to Indian reservations that they had over in Oklahoma. So it was obviously very sad. But that's the earliest, um, or that's as early as I went back historically in Kennesaw Mountain. I did the research for this project. Um, so obviously the one that I do know more about and the one that I focused on was the Battle of Kennesaw Mountain. So this took place in the Civil War. So for context, um, there is Atlanta was a massive industrial hub for the Confederate Army. It's the biggest city in the South, especially at that time. Um, and so the General Sherman was tasked with taking the city of Atlanta and really making a huge advancement in the war by taking it away from the Confederates. So the Battle of Kennesaw Mountain it ranged from June 27th to July 2nd of 1864 in northern Georgia. The battle was part of General Sherman's effort to capture the city of Atlanta and, like I said, a critical transportation and industrial hub. The general of the Confederate Army was Joseph E. Johnson, and his job, he was actually from Tennessee, his job was to um, the defend Atlanta and not let the Union forces advance. So if you're looking at it from a map, the Union forces are from the north and they're trying to come south through northern Georgia and all of that territory and get to Atlanta. Uh, and obviously Johnson's job was to stop that. The battle, it was hard because the terrain was crazy, right? So it's a mountain, so it's not easy. Um, obviously the Confederate forces had way more experience, so they knew how to use the land to their advantage. They'd spent more time there than the Union forces had, and so they obviously tactically were able to have a way bigger advantage than the Union forces had, um, and they used that to their advantage. The battle did end in a stalemate, so neither side really accomplished the goal. The goal for the Union forces was to take over and advance, um, and the goal of the Confederates was to stop the advancement and force some retreat. Neither really happened. Um, but the Confederacy did retreat off the mountain and went to Atlanta, like to the city, and to defend that, whereas Sherman's troops um, were able to stay and kind of in the state of Georgia, if that makes any sense. Um, Now, with that being said, that was a huge step in the Union, in their advancement and in their success in the war. Um, there was a lot of casualties. I believe the Confederate forces lost 1,000 guys, whereas the Union lost 3,000. So by pure numbers, obviously, yeah, the Union lost, but they also were able to advance pretty far, and that was a success. So that was just a little bit of context about the actual war itself, and a lot of that I actually did not know before. So in conclusion, Kennesaw Mountain is a national battlefield park now, and it's a protected area, and it preserves the battlefield, and it provides a spot for um, visitors and history nerds to come and visit and really enjoy their time. It also is a place for families to come and hike and to come and really enjoy the outside. There's camping spots, and it happens to be one of my favorite places in the whole world, and will always be dear to my heart, no matter where I live in this country. Thank you.